Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Guy Fieri has a new show. It's called Guy's Feast Club. Why are we talking about this, John? Because he's got some comedians on it, including Andrew Santino and Bert Kreischer. The 4-episode series Guy's Feast Club will include guests feasting on dishes like tomahawk ribeye sandwiches while chatting with the Food Network chef. There's a trailer. He introduces his guests, whom he calls the most talented people on the planet, including Bert Kreischer. Guy asks the guests what they would like to eat. Andrew Santino says, Italian food would be nice. Bobby Lee says, Korean. Guy explains the show. I find out what they're craving. I go get it. We sit down, and what happens next is anybody's guess. So in the 4 episodes, there's an Italian least with Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino, a tomahawk ribeye sandwich with Bert Kreischer, and then the other guests are Tony Hawk and somebody else. Sounds very exciting, doesn't it? Adam Ray is getting a cheap television show on Netflix. Now, the people at Netflix are mistaken. They think this is a podcast because they don't understand what a podcast is. It's actually an inexpensively produced television show that they're airing on Netflix under the column that says podcast. But this is in no way a podcast. But what is it, John? It is called Adam Ray Dr. Phil Live. The cheaply produced television show will debut on Netflix June 19th. That's coming up with 4 episodes. Michael Bublé, the first guest, then Dave Matthews, Nikki Glaser, oh boy, and Andrew Santino. Future guests include Hasan Minhaj, Jelly Roll, Marshawn Lynch, John Schneider, and Mike McDonald. No, not John Schneider from the Dukes of Hazzard, I don't think. It's the general manager and head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Joel McHale, Mark Normand, Ray's mother, the Goo Goo Dolls, and more. Adam Ray will engage in, quote, deep dive conversations with the guests, but not always as himself. He'll drift into improvised characters, including Dr. Phil. Meanwhile, Days of Our Lives has taken John Oliver up on his offer. According to the Daily Mail, John Oliver has started taping a role on Days of Our Lives with the part reportedly written specifically for him. The Daily Mail calls the role wacky. Now, back in March, John Oliver closed an episode of Last Week Tonight with a tribute to the pleasures of daytime soaps. During that segment, he said, I'm officially offering myself to you. Write me a role, and I'll be on your set so fast it'll make your head spin. He did have conditions. He does not want to play himself. He wanted the character to have a ridiculous name, and he wanted something, quote-unquote, juicy, preferably involving murder or slapping or being slapped or being someone's long-lost something. He also requested a dramatic close-up. Variety had 10 questions from Marc Maron. Mark, childhood nickname? Mark said, during PE in 5th grade at stickball, my coach used to call me Hank Maron, which was pretty good because I hit a couple homers. I wouldn't say I was doing it all the time, but I don't remember too many nicknames other than just my last name. All right, Mark, something you loved as a kid but can't believe you were into it now? Mark said, I was pretty involved with Cocoa Pebbles. You didn't expect him to say that. I don't feel ashamed about it, but I tried to eat them recently. It's not the same. His go-to karaoke song is Bob Dylan's Going, Going, Gone. He also does Taylor Swift's Bigger Than the Whole Sky, which is in his recent special. Some of the other questions, they're not all interesting. Secret talent, I can cook and I can play harmonica. Favorite ice cream flavor, Ben & Jerry's still makes pretty good vegan ice cream. The chocolate fudge brownie's good. The vegan Jerry Cherry Garcia is good. Vegan fish food is good. I like things with caramel in them, too. One thing Marc Maron couldn't live without is glasses. What TV show does he wish he could have been on the cast? Mary Tyler Moore. To work with Ed Asner at that point, how funny would that have been? The whole crew, oh my God, so funny. Favorite piece of advice, Marc Maron? I remember one time when I was talking to an editor about a book, and I was kind of panicking, so I go, but it's going to be okay, right? And he said, yeah, or not. I think it's as honest as you could be. Patton Oswalt, what aspirations do you have now as an actor, now that you've ruined Star Trek and you can ruin other things? Patton said, I want to keep acting in movies, obviously, and then I want to write and direct. I've always been kind of fascinated by the kind of low-stakes, low-life crime world. That's something that's always drawn me in. New topic. Hey, Patton Oswalt, in your specials, what's the balance between topical and observational comedy? Does that change over time? Patton said it fluctuates. Each special, I just do a snapshot of me reacting to the world at that time. I'm not trying to do anything beyond that. I'm trying to capture that moment and how it feels. He talked about the week when we went to the moon and started a war. Patton said it's weird how we're at the extremes of our highs and lows right now. It's insane. Humans have been the furthest they've ever been away from this planet, and they're poets. They're sending down these beautiful transmissions, and then we have a guy on the ground who's saying, I'm going to wipe out a civilization. I don't know how our minds are going to keep both of those together, but we'll see. He talked about his feeling of the current direction of America, and he said, I think it's going to take a generation. I don't think we'll be able to throw a switch and go back. We're so far down this road. There are many people like, if I can't have this level of cruelty and pettiness, I'd rather the world burn down. That's a level of nihilism that we're going to have to work through. Send your letters to Patton Oswalt, Star Trek ruiner. Folks at FortWorth.com went to see Nate Bargatze. They say the electric atmosphere was evident at the 3 o'clock performance. 3 o'clock, wow. Due to heavy traffic and late arriving patrons, the show began about 30 minutes late. Julian McCullough served as both MC and opening act, warming up the crowd. Fellow comedians Mike Vecchione and Greg Warren followed with sets. Greg Warren mined humor from dating mishaps and social awkwardness. All three comics frequently engaged audience members, etc., etc. This was a Netflix taping in the afternoon that started 30 minutes late. We're told crane-mounted cameras glided across the arena floor to capture Bargatze's Theater in the Round presentation, while a rotating overhead camera recorded audience reactions. Minor joke spoilers, whether wondering how many chickens could fit inside a horse or admitting that he blindly accepts every website's cookie policy because he has no idea what any of it means, he consistently found humor in ordinary situations. Jeff Foxworthy explained comedy math to NPR. 60 minutes of comedy for a special equals a year on stage. Jeff Foxworthy said, I guess it was 1984, and Jay Leno was probably the king of the road comics, and he said, your goal should be to write 1 new minute a week. And I remember sitting there going, are you crazy? A week? I can write 20 new minutes. And I found out over time, he was exactly right. It's hard. It's trying to find a thing that's going to make a room full of strangers laugh every time you say it. Jeff talked about working political or not. I had a lot of friends that did political stuff, and half the room hates you. My goal was to make as many people laugh as I could, and because A, I really believe if you took people from different sides of the political spectrum, they could peg one side or the other, and you sat down with them and you said, what do you want out of life? Would probably agree on 85% of things. But instead of celebrating that 85%, what we chose to do was scream and throw things at each other for the 15% that were different. One of the coolest things about stand-up for me was before I did it, I hadn't been anywhere. Never been out of the South. Now I've been in all 50 states and almost every part of all 50 states. And you realize, yeah, the accents change and the scenery changes, but people are people. That's the part I choose to go after with comedy. Jeff, will this be your last special? I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure. I'm more content. I'm more at peace. And now at this point in my life, I'm like, you know what? If I got a spare Wednesday evening, I don't want to be in a club with no cards in my hands. I'd rather be laying in the bed, reading to my grandkids. It's not because I didn't love this thing. It's because I love other things too. You may recall Bill Engvall retired and then unretired, so we will see. Jeff Foxworthy is 67. Guy Branum told Nuvo.net, when I started stand-up comedy, it was something that was done 85% by heterosexual men. When people showed up at a comedy show at a random comedy venue, they assumed a really specific perspective. And if they weren't getting that, they were shocked and surprised. The change that happened in stand-up comedy in America is not a change that happened because of the raw, amazing talent of a greater diversity of stand-up comedians. It's a change that happened because audiences changed, because women showed up to shows not wanting to be humiliated and insulted, because queer people realized it was a space they could show up to and not always be the butt of the joke. You can't deny that gay comedy was unusual when I started. There were no successful gay male stand-up comics, even recently as 6 or 7 years ago. Now you have Mateo Lane, Caleb Earon, and an entire generation of people have been able to build that. What Mateo has is in so many ways because of YouTube and Instagram stuff he did on his own terms. What Caleb achieved is because of TikTok and his podcast. I think we're at this really interesting moment in entertainment where consolidation of the gatekeepers has given a small number of corporations what they believe is a whole lot of power, but because they're not using it in ways that are reflective of the times, they could very easily lose that power to other institutions that aren't gatekeeping as hard. And Toronto has the series Tragedy Plus Time. They caught up with Ashwin Singh, a Toronto comedian. Singh discusses topics like immigration, religion, and social hypocrisy, and splits his time between Toronto and Delhi. Influences, good list here. George Carlin, Patrice O'Neill, Doug Stanhope, Dave Chappelle, Taylor Thompson, Michelle Wolf, and some others. Favorite comedian growing up? Carlin, always. Love that answer. Favorite comedian now? Depends on the day, but probably still Carlin. And that is your comedy news for today. It is June, so you're sharing the show, right? I forgot to bother you about that on Friday. You're sharing the show. You're telling people, right? You're like, hey, there's this guy, and he talks about stuff. I don't know what the show's really about, but I kind of like it. I listen every day. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit, you have a phone in your hand right now, right? Push the share button and send it to somebody. We go, hey, listen to this. It's a random Sunday episode in the summer. And they'll be like, wow, that was a pretty good episode. Thank you, John. I don't know why I put myself down. If you like the show, share the show, and I will see you tomorrow.